All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to talk about Danny Dimes and his recovery process, where he's at currently. So he did address the media, and he is progressing well in his recovery from the torn ACL in his right knee and expects to be cleared for training camp. He expressed optimism about his rehab process, stating that he has not experienced any setbacks so far and has had good progress with the Giants training staff, training and strength staff. Tore his ACL in Week 9 to the Raiders, who we just talked about in the last segment, and underwent surgery in late November. His recovery timeline was initially set at 8 months, coinciding with the start of training camp in late July. Daniel Jones aims to participate in some drills during the spring off-season workouts, but the decision will depend on his rehab process and the assessment of the team's training and strength staff. While General Manager Joe Schoen suggests that Jones could participate in drills during the spring, Coach Brian Daboll remained cautious and did not commit to any specific timeline. So some conflict there. Well, not really a conflict, but you got Joe Schoen saying one thing and Brian Daboll saying another thing. Despite the Giants potentially considering quarterbacks in the draft, Jones believes he is the best option to start the season at quarterback and is focused on his recovery and performance on the field. Jones has been throwing for some time, even doing stationary soft tosses post-surgery, and has progressed with his movements, dropbacks, and quarterback-specific drills. His primary focus has been on rehabilitating his knee, and when it comes to the neck injury, he said that is not a factor and that is fully healed. So that is that's a good sign there. I mean, all good signs for him. But again, I've been pretty consistent. For me, he's not the answer at quarterback. And I think, for me, the Giants should address that position one way or another. Now, they could go about it as, like, if their guys end up getting taken, then maybe you take the best player available with your pick, and maybe you take a receiver. Because, again, the Giants have a lot of needs, and particularly on the offensive side of the ball. Because now Saquon Barkley's gone, and you did bring in Devin Singletary, who did have a productive year with the Texans, but Devin Singletary is not the long-term answer with the at running back. Again, it's not the priority, but that's one. The priority is quarterback and receiver, I feel like. Because, I mean, again, offensive line, you can never draft too many offensive linemen. Now, they signed a lot. They've signed some offensive linemen this offseason. They signed John Runyon. They brought in, the tackle from the Raiders, as well as they signed a couple of offensive linemen for depth from the Buccaneers and the Lions, I believe. So they have made moves to address the offensive line. So I think it's really a priority to either draft a quarterback or draft a wide receiver. I think that's really how they have to go about it. Because the defense, I think, for me, is the strength of the team. So, and the Giants will, draft some guys on the defensive side of the ball. I can't imagine they're not going to, draft somebody on defense. But for me, with the pick that they have, you either go quarterback or you either go receiver. And you take the best player available. That's how I see it. And if they draft another offensive lineman, so be it. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be either a receiver or a quarterback. And if not, then I don't know anything. But that's just how I see this playing out. But again, for me, Daniel Jones is not the answer. And it has a lot to do with his durability. And I just don't think he's the guy. Again, 2022, he was good, but didn't light up the stat sheet. Had a lot of rushing touchdowns. That's why the touchdown to interception ratio wasn't spectacular. But I just don't see him leading the Giants to where they want to go. And that's, get further in the playoffs, maybe, get to a Super Bowl and winning it. I don't see that with him. I don't see it. Now, again, he's got a good arm, and he's athletic. But I don't know. For me, I don't see it. And maybe it's just, again, he wasn't coached right. I mean, again, you went from Pat Shurmur to Joe Judge, now to Brian Daboll. I mean, he's kind of dealing with what Eli Manning dealt with towards the end of Eli's career. You know, Eli went from Coughlin to McAdoo to Shurmur. It's just all in a short time, and it really, the Giants did Daniel Jones a disservice. They did. And John Mara has said that. He said that they have not done right by Daniel Jones. But at the same time, Daniel Jones hasn't wowed me. There's been some moments where he has, because in the playoff game against the Vikings, and I know the Vikings defense was not good in 2022, but there were some plays that Jones made where I was like, wow, that was really good. But then there's some plays where you're like, what is he doing? Like that pick six against the Seahawks. Now again, he was sacked. What was he sacked? Like 12 times in that game? Let's go back to that game. Let's go back to that game. We'll revisit it right now. But was sacked a million times, but not on that play. That play he actually had time to throw. And he got picked off. He threw it right to, I think it was Witherspoon of the Seahawks. You know, he makes some boneheaded mistakes. Yeah, let's actually take a look here. So the Seahawks, they sacked Daniel Jones. 11 times in one game. And Jones threw 2 interceptions. Yeah, the pick six was to Witherspoon. But yeah, that was a bad play. That was just a messy game all around. 24-3 the final score was. But yeah, got sacked 11 times in one game. How does that happen? So I'll come to his defense on that it's just, again, the offensive line was not good. And the offensive line got better as the year went on, but of course it's when Jones isn't playing quarterback. It's when Tyrod Taylor's playing quarterback and Tommy DeVito's playing quarterback. It was not when Daniel Jones was playing quarterback. So, yeah, you could definitely blame the offensive line for why Jones, just did not play well. That had a lot to do with it too. I mean, again, 11 times. Yeah, it's just wasn't coached right, hasn't been surrounded with the best talent. So you could put that in there, but again, I just don't think he's that good. I think he's okay, but okay's not going to get the Giants to where they want to go. And you look at the Eagles and the Cowboys. I mean, the gap is still big. There's still a big gap, especially after that first game of the year. And I said it, that game was going to dictate the kind of season the Giants were going to have. And they lost 40-0. And, while I was on the dance floor at my cousin's wedding, updating myself, I didn't watch a single second of the game. I watched the highlights after the fact. But I'm checking my phone, updating myself on the game, and I'm just seeing what the score is, and eventually it was 40-0. I'm like, yeah, this team's not going to be good. They're not going to be good. And they weren't. They were not a good team. And it was a complete opposite of 2022 because they played the Titans, who turned out not to be a good team that season, but they were the 1 seed in 2021. The Giants, they pulled off a win, a gutsy win, score a touchdown towards the end of the game. They get the 2-point conversion, and then the Titans end up missing a field goal, and the Giants end up winning the game. And you thought, wow, who would have thought the Giants would have won that game? Again, it was against the Tennessee Titans, but still, I didn't think the Giants were going to win that game. That was a fun game. You felt positive after that. The following year was the complete opposite because they got blown out by a division rival who you're trying to compete with, and you just realize that the gap is much wider. They didn't close the gap. It's wider. And I like what the Giants have done this offseason with again, not giving Barkley that big contract. Losing him does hurt, but not giving that big contract was the right move. Bringing in Devin Singletary, who's a decent running back. You signed some offensive linemen. You traded for Brian Burns, which was the big one, to pair up with Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau. I think the Giants are heading in a better direction, but you really have to fix this offense. That is the priority in this draft. You need to address the offense here. They need to draft a quarterback. I think they have to. But you also need to get playmakers. You need to get some wide receivers. So again, crazy things can happen. But the offense really is a priority. And I hope the Giants do the right thing. But I just don't think Daniel Jones is the guy. And again, you've heard from Rich Eisen heard from people at the Combine that the Giants are just done with Daniel Jones. I mean, right now they're like, oh, Daniel's the guy. But it could very well be all a smokescreen and they end up taking another quarterback. They signed Drew Lock to be a backup, and he did okay with the Seahawks. They beat the Eagles on Monday Night Football. Now again, the Eagles were in a free fall, but still, I mean, Drew Lock showed that he could still win games. So, maybe this is what Daniel Jones needs. Maybe he needs to go out there and really, this could motivate him to go out there and show that, hey, I'm actually the guy. And you know what? I hope he does. Because I'm doubting him. And this is something that I would like to be wrong on. Because, again, being a Giant fan, you don't want this team to stink. But at the same time, I am going to stay on my, still back up my statement of just I don't believe that he is the franchise quarterback. But again, there's other factors to it besides his performance on the field. It's also just durability. And yeah, he talks about the neck injury being fully healed, but this is the second time he had a neck injury. The first time, that was like career threatening. The second one wasn't as bad, but still, I mean, you don't want to mess with that. That's forced guys into retirement, neck injuries. And now he's coming off of a torn ACL. He's basically been hurt every year that he's been in the league. Except, I think, 2022. I don't think he missed any games. Except, I think, the final game of the season when they played Davis Webb. But his rookie year, he got hurt. 2020, he got hurt. 2021, he got hurt because we had to see Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm play. I had the pleasure of seeing that. And then, of course, I mean, in 2023, it was at least tolerable because you had Tyrod Taylor, who is a good backup, and Tommy DeVito won you games. But other than 2022, Daniel Jones has always been hurt. So, and again, Giant fans are spoiled because Eli Manning never missed a game. Except when he got benched. Never missed a game. And now since Eli Manning, you got quarterbacks that get hurt all the time. Daniel Jones getting hurt. Tyrod Taylor's gotten hurt. So, yeah, that's another thing too. That's another knock on Daniel Jones. But again, I hope he proves people wrong. I hope he proves me wrong. If he proves me wrong and he goes out there and he is a starter, and from day one, and he goes out there and has a great year, and the Giants make the playoffs, I mean, that would be awesome. But I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. And I think the Giants, it's a smokescreen. They could say Daniel Jones is the guy, but in reality, he's not the guy. He's not the guy. But let me know what you guys think about Daniel Jones and the Giants. What do you think they're going to do with their first pick in the draft? I think it's going to be one of two positions. It's either going to be quarterback or it's going to be receiver. I'll take either or, but it also has to be the right guy too. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's basically it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows on the GSMC Sports Network. We got the NBA playoffs, but we got the play-in tournament starting tonight. I think it's the Western, right? It's the Western Conference games tonight. Got some good matchups though. I just want to double check that really quickly. Again, it's football, but the football podcast. But yeah, but I'd like to update you guys on some other things as well. But yeah, we got the Western Conference games tonight. Lakers, Pelicans, Warriors, Kings. So some good matchups there. So make sure to tune into the GSMC Basketball Podcast to hear about those matchups. So then we got the Eastern Conference matchups tomorrow. Also, again, the WNBA draft was last night. So you'll hear about that, I'm sure, today as well on Nelson's show. And, yeah, baseball in full swing. Check out all the other shows as well, like I said. Give them some love. Appreciate it. But, yeah, with that is all the time that we have for today. Again, thank you guys for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.